Hello and welcome back to the channel. One of the things that we've noticed through analysing the comments is that there's a lot of concern about buying second-hand boats. So today I'm here with Kip and he's going to give us a few answers. So Kip, what's one of the biggest concerns about someone that's in the market for buying a used boat?
So what we've learned through the channel is definitely people, I mean, we've had comments, one particular guy actually commented that he has sleepless nights worrying about that he buys a second-hand boat, even though it's been re-blacked with bitumen, that underneath the bitumen is what we've shown on our videos, that sometimes it's still badly corroded, and he could have that shot blasted off and find that, you know, there is a lot of corrosion under there, and if it's bad enough, then, you know, he may have the cost of overplating, which, you know, nobody wants to do, which is why everybody says you have to have a hull survey done. A hull survey obviously picks up a lot of stuff, but without, as we've shown, without physically actually shot blasting all the old paint off and getting right back to the steel, it's impossible to know exactly how deep these pits are. Most boats, depending on the age, will be okay just to shot blast and epoxy, and that's fine. But as we've seen, you know, I think over the last 2 years, probably out of 10 boats, we've probably had 2 that needed overplating. They were quite old boats, but, you know, it's still, that risk is always there. And, you know, like on one of the early videos, I think, you know, a rough costing could be up to sort of £20,000 to have that done. So if people are spending, you know, we're all the same. We all push to our limits. We all, you know, start off a budget of say 50,000. By the time, oh, well, the one I really want is £70,000. You're up to your budget. Then all of a sudden, you know, you see our video.
You've inherited a nightmare.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden there's £20,000 worth of costs that you wasn't expecting. So that's people's concerns. So that's why we've started looking at different ways we can offer our services to try and improve that, and to give people what they want on a new, well, it is new to the customer's second-hand boat. So yeah, we've come up with quite an interesting solution to that, which we'll touch on a bit more as we go through this sort of process, and you know, but that's people's biggest concern.
So going back to the other day when we was at the marina doing the for sale video, there was a guy there that was complaining about his paint peeling, and he'd actually said that he'd had it sandblasted a couple of years back, but that couldn't have been that.
No, I think, as if you remember, so first of all he did say, oh yeah, no, I've had it all shot blasted and I've had it epoxied, and then as the conversation grew, it was, oh no, maybe it wasn't shot blasted, maybe it was pressure washed, and you know, which again, it loosens some of the paint actually, so it can make it worse, you know, once you've got flaky paint, you know, and then you just paint back over it, you know. The edges is always very loose and and that's where the water ingress and that's where the corrosion starts. So yeah, and it was funny, the comment from the guy was so positive. Oh yeah, I know, in 18 months I've got to have it re-blacked, and I'm going to have it shot blasted and re-blacked. And I think my comment was, well, why are you going to wait 2 years? You're 18 months, 2 years to have it done. And his comment was, well, that's when officially, that's when I've been told I need to have it looked at. But in that period of time, as we've seen, you know, a lot can happen, and you know, it could be too late. You know, I mean, most brokers or, you know, marinas, most people would recommend at least every 2 years. So unless it was just done, which it didn't look like it had just been done. And by his own admission, he's got flaky paint and stuff. You know why would you leave it that long?
So here's the scenario: you are going out, you're buying a boat, not knocking any other boat sellers or anything like that, because there's plenty around this area. Yeah. But say, for example, a customer, they go to a boatyard and they buy a boat for 30 grand. They're not going to have any inspection done, or it's not going to come out the water to have that level of inspection done. They buy a boat, and then all of a sudden next year the paint's peeling. So it could end up that they're spending quite a bit of money on a used boat, and then all of a sudden a year later they've got to get that boat out of the water and get the hull treated.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it is literally that, you know, if you was buying anything new, it's great to have that first. So a lot of, especially second-hand boats, so a lot of people, because maybe the layout's not quite right, or they've not got enough beds, or, you know, they just want to freshen it all up. So a lot of people will spend a lot of money, buy a boat and then spend quite a lot of money like you would your house.
Yeah.
But if you're spending money on all niceties and to make it look pretty,
On something that might sink.
and the basics aren't right, you know, to me, it's just crazy. So, you know, this is what we've been thinking. So, you know, the first thing you want to do is make sure the foundations, in this case, the hull of the boat, is absolutely
solid,
perfect. And then you don't mind spending the money on it.
Which brings us on to your new service that you're offering. So do tell.
After thinking about things and, you know, the amount of comments and, you know, seeing with my own eyes, I didn't believe. We've always pushed the epoxies. We've been doing shot blasting epoxy for got to be 17, 18 years at least. But I didn't see enough of older boats that hadn't been done. We only see our own boats, and our own boats come back and they're absolutely pristine, you know, it's no problem. But since we've been doing a lot more of the older boats, it is absolutely astonishing how many and how bad a condition they're in. And even more so, and I have to hold my hands up, for years and years, everybody said the same thing. What about the base plate? And we've said the same. It's not worth doing. It's 10 mil thick, you know, it's a waste of money. But, you know, you've only got to look at the boats we've done, and lots of comments from surveyors, you know, and lots of comments from lots of people about the base plate as well. It should be done. So after looking at all of these things and seeing it with my own eyes, you know, I'm like thinking, if I was going to buy a second-hand boat, you know, there's no way I would take that risk and just go in and buy a boat, even with a hull survey. Yes, they could scrape a bit off, they can have a look. So what I've got in mind, obviously the first part of it, we are now offering a part exchange. So we will take the customer's old boat in part exchange for a new build. Obviously, because what we're going to do is bring it like the boat we shown on the video last week, Iris. So we're going to bring that boat back to the Bluewater. We'll shot blast the hull sides, the base plate, put the epoxy system on, so we know that hull is in perfect condition when we sell it. So we can give a 4-year guarantee on the hull. We know if we've had boats sort of 7 or 8 years with that system on, so, you know, 4 years, you know, it should be plenty. We don't want to offer a 7 or 8 year like we used to on new builds, because we do feel that you still need to inspect it. We don't envisage that you have to do a lot of work to it, but we just feel that, you know, if we said 7 years, people would leave it 7 years. So yeah, I think it's a good practice to literally offer a 4-year guarantee. So after 4 years, they take it out, inspect it, sand it back, and just put more epoxy on. The more epoxy that's on the boat, the longer it lasts. It's quite simple, really.
And the other good thing about this service as well is not only are you treating the hull, but you're also giving the customer the option to upgrade. There were a few comments on that last video that, the fuel tank's small, the water tank's small, there's no solar panels, all that kind of stuff can be added in.
Yeah, I mean,
obviously at a price. But
yeah. I mean, that's the good thing about here, because we've got our own engineers, we've got carpenters, we've got painters, we've got a whole team of people that can. So whatever's thrown at us, if something happens or something goes wrong, or yeah, like you say, you just really want to gut the boat and start from scratch, you know, we can do that for you. So you're basically going to end up with almost, it's not a brand new boat, but it's in brand sort of perfect condition.
Yes. A bit like renovating a car.
Yeah, well, it's funny, and maybe this is where it stems from. I've not told anybody on the channel before, but where I started my apprenticeship and that was building literally heavy plant.
Okay.
And we would literally strip the machine down to nothing, every nut and bolt, shot blast all the chassis, all the body, and literally rebuild it.
Yeah.
Obviously, with a boat, we don't need to go to that extreme, but you can do if you want, and it probably would work out cheaper than a new build. The world is a different place in the last 3 years, and the cost. We've had a lot of comments on the channel about how much we charge for these services, but I'm not driving around in a Bentley by no means. We work hard for what we do. The figures in building boats are not what they should be. Any boat builder will tell you the same. We don't make an absolute fortune out of it, but we love what we do.
So for the benefit of those watching this video, what is the new service? What are you offering?
So obviously we've already spoke about briefly that we're doing the part exchange, which is pretty straightforward, and that's quite simple to understand. And I thought, well, if we're going to sell second-hand boats, we can only build probably 5 or 6 boats a year, whether they'll all be part exchange or not. That's not a really big enough market to try and take on new staff and to improve things and to be able to, offer a new service. So I kept thinking, how can we do second-hand boats, quality ones? How customers, because I've seen as well on lots of occasions customers from abroad, and they've got to fly over, they've got to have surveys done, it's quite stressful, going to see the boat for a day and then got to fly back home, and then so I was like, there's got to be a service that we can offer that will improve that and make it less stressful and possibly even save them money. Obviously, if they've only got to take it out of the water every 4 years, that saves money. Obviously, most people take it out every 2 years, so that's saved 2 years. The amount of work needed after 4 years as well is less, so that should also save them money.
There's also the aspect as well, is like you could take in a Parsex boat or buy a second-hand boat, but that might not be what the customer wants. It might not be their preferred layout. They might not like the cassette style toilet anything like that, or maybe even the plants. But basically, by you turning around to the customer and saying, you can find the boat that you want to buy, and then we will uplift that boat, we will upgrade it.
Yeah, well, that was my thinking. I thought, well, so how can we do it? So, because like you say, every layout's different, every budget's different, and that's the hardest bit. So if I was to do it myself, buy a boat, tidy it up, make it all nice, and then you're going to market that boat, well, it might not be the boat you want.
No.
So, I was like thinking about it, and I thought, well, okay, so what about if the customer finds the boat they like, they can contact us then, say, I've found this boat, this is a boat I really like, can you work your magic with this boat?
And so of course you can.
Yeah, without a doubt. Obviously, the negotiation side of it, we may have to go out and visit the boat. We can check what work needs doing on the inside,
or what you think needs doing.
Yeah. So then we can use that to negotiate the price and hopefully get probably a much better price than Joe Bloggs would, who just hasn't got our knowledge and expertise at second-hand boats.
I've mentioned cars before, but sometimes when you're buying a car, you will take a mechanic with you and say, could you do me a favour and have a look over this car before I buy it?
Yeah, exactly. And you'd take your own mechanic. You wouldn't use one from a garage, is what people are saying. Obviously, you can have surveys, but at the end of the day, whoever you buy the boat from is always going to be trying to make some profit off it, which is the way of the world. There's no problem with that. But some of the marinas I've been to and the brokerages, they literally throw you a set of keys and you go wandering around the boats, and there's very little sales input or expertise sort of walking around the boat and explaining, which is why I have sold boats for customers before. We took one to a quick boat show one year and sold for a customer. And I do believe my sales is a lot different. We try to explain the benefits, and we want to, make the boats as maintenance free as possible. Not always the cheapest option, but my theory is if you do the job properly, then you will save money in the long term. So so they can come to us. they already know they like the layout. They already know that it's the right sort of budget. They already know that it's a boat they like, because that's why they've picked it.
The only thing they don't know is what that hull's like.
That's it. So we will negotiate and we will try to get the best price possible. So we will buy the boat for the customer, so they have no hassle. They don't have to go in there bartering, bargaining, and you know, feeling uncomfortable, you know, asking questions that they don't know the answers to, or whether they're going to be told the right answer. Or we're going to take care of all that. So we will buy the boat for the customer. We will then arrange the transport, the craneage, or however you know, it may be cheaper. You know, at the end of the day, we want to give that customer the best boat we can at the cheapest price we can. So if it's fairly local to us, you know, we can get somebody to bring the boat locally to us, have it craned out at Calcut, our local marina that we work with quite a lot, and we can literally cut the cost there, bring it back to us, shot blast underneath. Like I say, we're going to do all underneath the base plates and the hull. So we know that hull is, and then we'll put 300 to 400 microns of epoxy on. So we know the hull is in absolute, you know, perfect condition.
It sounds a great service, because basically it's taking away any concerns for anybody buying a second-hand boat.
Yeah.
You know, because you just don't know what you're going to buy, but you guys are going to take it out of the water and basically turn this second-hand boat into something that's going to last a long, long time.
Yeah, and the services are not cheap, but, you know, it is peace of mind. But, you know, I think with our know-how as well, so we're looking at possibly, I think probably around about the £17,000 as a set fee for us to literally take control of the whole situation. We will do the sales negotiations, bring the boat back, we'll shot blast it, we'll get the hull in perfect condition. We'll then actually do a list of recommendations. Some they may want to do, some they may not want to do. It depends on the budget. Or, you know, they still have those recommendations further down the line once they've saved up a bit more money, so they can have their jobs done in their own convenience. So, you know, £17,000, you know, to do all that, you know, it's not cheap, but it's peace of mind,
yeah.
That boat is in perfect condition. And, you know, the customer will only pay the fee that it costs us. So if we can negotiate that boat down by, say, £7,000 or £8,000, that's going to come off that figure. Our fee starts at, say, £17,000. If we negotiate that price £7,000 cheaper, you know, really it's costing you £10,000.
Yeah.
So, you know, then that is actually cheap. You know, that to have a boat delivered, we'll have a boat safety done on the boat. There'll be an independent surveyor oversee the project. Obviously, we'll take photos during the shot blasting and the epoxy process. So you'll have a whole folder like we would with our new builds of what's been done.
You've just touched on something really important there, actually, because one of the, in fact, several comments on the last video is don't trust a seller that's offering a survey. Just to confirm, this surveyor doesn't work for Bluewater Boats. He's an independent surveyor who hopefully will get on the channel. Yeah. Because we're not trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. We're trying to make this whole process as transparent as possible.
That's right. You know, I mean, anybody who thinks a surveyor in this day and age is going to cut corners or do friends favours or whatever, you know, it's just not going to happen. You know, they're independent. You know, there is a lot of issues in the boating industry because a lot of it is interpretation of rules, and you know, they're not hard and fast rules. You know, you have to do this. You know, there is a lot of interpretation, and every surveyor sees it slightly different. But you know, most people, the biggest part of any survey is the hull survey, to know that the corrosion. Well, we're eliminating that. There is no, once that boat's done, the hull is going to be in A1 condition, you know, so that side of it's gone. So the BSS is the next most important, obviously the gas and electrics, and so it'll have that done, so that'll be a 4-year BSS ticket. So with that and the hull survey, I mean, the rest is really cosmetic, what the customer wants. You know, they may choose to have it repainted so it's all nice, or they may want, you know, a new galley, or like the customer commented, it didn't suit him to have a not a compost toilet, but a cassette toilet. So, you know, if we had to, we could, I'm sure we could put a pump out toilet or compost toilet, you know, and solar panels, you know, every boat now is going to want solar panels.
So pretty much anything can be upgraded on the boat once it's in the workshop, can't it? So it's a win-win service, really.
Yeah, and I'm sure many marinas do offer upgrades and stuff, you know, so we're not unique in that. But, you know, we are pretty good at it. We've got people on site. But probably the main thing that I think people will really appreciate and prefer the boat coming here, the worst case scenario, you buy a boat, especially if it's an older boat, and like we've said, you know, that unfortunately we blast it off and we do find that the pitting is too deep and needs overplating. So if that happens, you know, we'll obviously give the customer a price, you know, this is what it's going to cost. And because they bought the boat for us and whatever, we're going to do that as cheap as we can.
For anyone watching this video, how will this finance work?
So what we're thinking is, again, trying to be getting rid of the stress and the hassle of buying a second-hand boat and trying to make it as an easier and nicer process for the customer as possible. Once they've chose the boat, they will instruct us that this is the boat they want, pay a deposit. Obviously, we'll start negotiations then. If the boat isn't up to the standard we think, or we can't get the price right for that boat, then obviously, you know, we'll have to discuss that, and then they can go off and find another more appropriate boat to their situation. But obviously, if it's good and everything looks well and we think that the boat's good value for money, we get it at the right money, and it doesn't look like there's too much work involved, or, you know, the seller's, you know, working with us, you know, so hopefully that's the case. So then once we've agreed that figure, the customer will know that figure that it's cost them. They will have to pay 80% of that plus 50% of our standard fee, which I'd say is £17,000, which will cover all the negotiations, craneage, the BSS certificate, any surveyors we need, and all the basic stuff that we need to spend money on, basically. So they'll paid 80% of the boat and 50% of the standard fee, and then we will literally bring the boat back, do all the work, make sure the boat's up to the standard it needs to be, any other work as well. And once the customer's happy and they've been and seen and inspected the boat like we would on any new build, and they're happy that, you know, the work's done and all the paperwork's there, then they'll pay the remaining 50% of the standard fee and the 20% of the boat cost. Hopefully, you know, if we get the boat at the right price by using our experience and knowledge of boats, you know, I mean, we're going to find things that, you know, a normal surveyor or, you know, wouldn't. Hopefully to get the price right in the first place, and then, you know, the customer gains that, you know, they're getting that boat at that price. So, you know, they're using our knowledge and expertise to get a cheaper price, basically. So hopefully, you know, the price and the costs, and they haven't got the gamble of like spending all the money, you know. I mean, so we're just trying to make it, you know, so that people feel safe and secure. Obviously, there'll be a contract that we'll have to have written up. So, you know, I do feel that, you know, it should be quite a good, fair way of doing business. Keep it like we try and keep it nice and social and friendly. And Zoom is very good now. So if, like I say, if you have got overseas customers, you know, we could do a lot of Zoom meetings so that they can still see it from, you know, wherever they are. But they got peace of mind. It's not Joe Bloggs buying it. You know, we've been building some real high tech. I mean, we've built boats for customers from Canada who very limited visits, Americans, you know, many customers from far away, with the use of Zoom, and, you know, but that's, you know, they're £500,000 sort of big Dutch barge projects and stuff. We are trustworthy. We do what we say we're going to do, and we could see us delivering a top of the range second-hand boat just like we do our new builds. You know, that's what we want to aim for. We want as good a reputation on second-hand boats as we've got in the new builds. Some people will, you know, not just shot blast the under the waterline, the hull. I do think there'd be quite a lot of people want a full paint job. So we'll literally, you know, and you've seen some of our painting. You know, the boat will go out looking on the outside, looking like a brand new boat. Yeah. You know, it's like a car, isn't it? You know, lots of people buy a slightly cheaper sports car or something, put private plates on it, and it, you know, nobody knows. It looks like, you know, and that's what we want to do. You know, I mean, the costs have gone up crazy. You know, we're the first to admit. You know, we wish we could sell the boats cheaper, but again, I'm not going to go into too much politics, but things are not getting any cheaper, and you know, they're not going to get any cheaper, and we can't just keep cutting costs and cutting costs. If you want to do the job properly, you know, the new build costs are very high. We will give you that service to, you know, so it's a way of giving different options, you know, not, you know, I've spoke to customers over the last 20 years, you know, people had retirement ideas, they've planned it for years and years and years, and, you know, they was always probably budgeting, you know, £50,000 less than what it's costing now. Yeah. So how do, you know, I don't want to lose those customers we've spoke to over for years and years who wanted to retire on boats, and, you know, an average narrowboat now, the cheapest one is £200,000, you know, and that's
quite a chunk.
It's a lot of money. And I don't want to see the waterways diminish and, you know, just disappear, basically. You know, it's given me a good industry and a good living for 20 odd years. See a lot of people that, you know, put so much time and effort, all the volunteers and people keeping the canal system going. So it's a way we can help make sure more people keep using the canal, so it keeps things going. You know, people can't afford £200,000. It's not because they haven't worked hard, it's not because they haven't tried and had their dreams, you know, but situations have changed people's lives, you know. So, you know, I can't build a boat at £150,000 anymore, brand new,
no,
and make any profit. You know, I'm just cutting my own throat. So I would rather give people an option of still having an absolute fantastic boat with all the guarantees on the hull, on the waterline. Give them those real nice options still, but at a budget that's fair to the customer, what they can afford, and they can still, you know, afford to go out and live. You know, I mean, one of the great things about the canals is the canal side pubs. So if you're not going into the pubs and using the facilities and the pubs and keeping the pubs going, you know, because you can't afford it, because you've spent so much money buying the boat, now you can't afford to
afford a pie.
So budgets have changed for people, and, you know, so this is why I think the system is absolutely fantastic. If you've got a budget of £50,000, we can make that work.
Yeah.
If you've got a budget of £80,000, we can make it work. You know, you're going to find your boat, and we're going to just make sure that it's well protected, it's done properly. You know, they are steel boxes that float in water. If they're not painted properly, you will have problems. I guarantee that at some point you will have problems.
All right. So if someone wants to get in touch, obviously we do encourage comments on the channel, but if it's a more specific question, I guess the best thing is to email you guys or give you a call. Yeah,
email's always best, because, you know, we can pick them up at any time, and we can reply to them in the evening or whatever when we're less busy. Obviously, we are always busy. But yeah, the phone is always there as well, and there's an answer phone. And like I say, the reason we're doing this is, well, we want to grow. You know, the economy's in a bit of a mess, and we need to stand strong as a country and grow the business and look for different ideas, and hopefully we can take somebody else on who's going to specialise on the second-hand market, you know. So that's our plan, to actually grow the business and employ more people to do this work, and, you know, hopefully we can, you know, keep the canals going as long as possible.
Nice. I shouldn't say nice. Can I say nice? I can't say nice. 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 Nice.